Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm joined by Lewandowski. How you doing, Lewandowski?
It's a good morning. I've had a stinker, haven't I? I've lost track of the time. Yeah, I woke up not too long ago. One of them days.
Oh, the life of the youth. I've been up for hours. But look, I tell you what, we've got lots to talk about tonight. And because it's a Friday night, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A as well. So get your questions lined up. But first of all, we're going to start off with some quite big breaking news that you may have seen yourselves, you may not have seen yourselves. But we've got news coming in from Mohamed Bouhafsi, who is a journalist from France, who is very reliable. And what he is saying is two things, actually. One about Pogba and one about Camavinga. And what he's saying about Camavinga, Levin, is that the agent of Camavinga is pushing a move to Manchester United. The player themselves is still a bit unsure, would like a PSG move, but that's obviously complicated if PSG go for Pogba, but if they go for Messi, even more so. And also, as we know, Manchester United potentially making one more big signing, and that's meant to maybe be the signing of a Trippier, which leads into the title of the show, really, Camavinga or Trippier. So where are you sitting on this at the moment? If we've got one more significant signing to make, what are your thoughts on that, and what would you like to see happening?
Well, first of all, I think if there's one more significant signing, it has to be a midfielder rather than the backup right back or the right back, whatever it is. Two, if it's between the two of them, if it's between Trippier, if it's between Camavinga, I'd rather have Camavinga now. The big problem, I think, with Camavinga in general, regardless of what you think of him as a player, is like people have this presumption that he probably wouldn't come straight into the team and be like the nailed-on starting midfielder, which I also sort of believe, you know what I mean, based off of like some of all these tendencies we've seen, which is a concern. But when you look at Camavinga, when you actually know a lot about Camavinga, his ceiling is insane. Like, he has the potential to be one of the best midfielders, and like, he is the kind of player you want. Regardless of what team you are, he's the kind of player you want because he's so young, he can be molded into so many different roles, and he has a lot of talent. And, that I value more than Kieran Trippier, regardless of whatever Kieran Trippier is going to offer to us. So I'd rather have Camavinga.
Yeah, it is interesting. So this is breaking news if anybody has just missed the opening part of the show. Mohamed Bouhafsi, who is a very good French journalist, I believe he was the sort of first one to start breaking the initial Camavinga interest, which was confirmed by Romano and others, and is a very respected French journalist. He's saying that the French... Well, look, Camavinga did change agency to the Jonathan Bartnett agency anyway, which would suggest he's looking to get a move, and also that they are looking to push a move to Manchester United. Now, it's gone quiet on Camavinga in recent weeks, but realistically, the Camavinga is the strongest link we've got to any midfielder. We can talk about Neves, we can talk about Saul Niguez, we can talk about Bissouma, but the reality is there's never really been any strong indication that we're in for Saul Niguez or Ruben Neves or Bissouma. There was, around the time that it was breaking about Varane, very strong indications that we were in for Camavinga. So he probably still is the most likely midfielder we go for, if we go for. And also we know with 1 year left on his deal, he's probably going to go for about £30 million. We also know Atletico Madrid are digging their feet in about Trippier, and they want the 35 million release clause. So effectively, Levin, you do get into this situation anyway. One more signing to be made. Trippier and Camavinga, basically the same price as well. And it is interesting what you've said there, because I think many people have said it. I've said it myself. Ultimately, we need a midfielder. Why are we looking to spend a similar amount of money on a backup right back when we have this huge hole in the team?
And it's like, you look at it and it's like, oh, cool, there might be similar price, but one's clearly more valuable than the other, right? Even with the release clause thing, like typically clubs will set release clauses because it's like, they don't want anyone to meet that, but if someone does meet that price, then it's like worthwhile for them, because it's like, okay, well, that's much more than, their typical market value would be. Whereas in Camavinga's case, he's actually going to be less than what he'd probably be worth, considering he had a longer contract or whatever. So, it just seems like Camavinga's the obvious choice, but I'm not going to like bank on United to make the obvious decision here. It really does depend, because, you're right. It did go quiet on Camavinga for quite a while, and I was never sure as to why. And I do hope that is the sort of final, piece to the puzzle with the summer. And you actually made a great point to start off when you just made that point. People will go on like, oh my God, why do you guys want Camavinga? Saul, there's so many better options. Kimmich, Goretzka, and these aren't people we're linked to. Do you know what I mean? You guys need to understand, like, we're going to talk about the people that we actually are in some way linked to, right, by these sort of respected journalists. Like Buhafsi, someone who knows what he's talking about, right? Other than starting the Camavinga thing, he was initially the one that said like the veranda was about to be done, and then Romano and everyone else started saying, yeah, he's right. So clearly knows what he's talking about. If it is going to be Camavinga, that's the main midfielder we're looking at, I don't think that's a bad option. As well. It's just more of a project than getting in someone who comes in straight away and is a nailed-on starter.
I think it's really interesting because I'm reading the chat while I'm listening to you, and yeah, a lot of people are saying Camavinga's too young. Ollie wouldn't pick him, but look, it goes back to what I said, and Levin's just backed it up there. The issue is we can all play Football Manager and we can all play FIFA and we can all say we want this, you want that. The reality is you've got to look at United. I'm going to sit here and say something very. I don't think it's brave. I mean, it will get clipped up if it goes wrong, but I don't think it's brave. We are now on August the 6th. The transfer window closes in less than 4 weeks' time. United take 4 weeks to do a deal. We think this Varane deal's been quick. Actually, it started at the end of June. It's now the start of August. He's still not official. Sancho started at the end of May and wasn't official until the beginning of July. These deals, we ain't doing 2 in 4 weeks. We're doing one more deal and that's it. And that deal or no deal is going to be Trippier or a midfielder. And we are not linked to Neves. We are not linked to Saul Niguez anywhere near as concretely as we are with Camavinga. And if you are tuning in a little bit late, Mohamed Bahafsi, who is the French journalist, is saying that the agent of Camavinga is pushing Camavinga to United. But Camavinga himself is a little bit unsure. Well, look, I suppose that's a question in itself. Do you turn your back on a player that's not sure? Or do you go for the deal? Because some people would say, well, if he's not sure, he's not sure. Whereas for me, I'm like, he's a midfielder. He's better than what we've got. I'm sure we can convince him. Ultimately, if he decides to come to us, he decides to come to us. No one's forcing the guy.
Yeah, and it's something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and it's a weird one because I can definitely see where, especially if you're the people who are in charge of transfers, right? It seems to be in the hands of a couple of people, but, mainly John Murtaugh and whatnot. I can definitely see how you'd want players who are very much, ready for the cause, who want to commit to the project. And if you find yourself really trying to haggle someone to believe in the project, I can understand why that'd be a put off. But at the same time, he's a young kid, right? He's a young kid. And I think people maybe are even playing a bit too much into it, where it's like, yeah, I'm sure he wants to play for Real Madrid. I'm sure he, United isn't his ideal dream club, right? A lot of that is dependent on where he grew up, how he grew up, right? Not everybody grew up loving United the way a lot of us did. So I'm not going to blame him or criticize him for that. But, I definitely think if he was to get involved with the club, he'd be excited. How can you not be sort of, excited about the project that we have going on here? So I'm not too fussed about whether or not he wants to come to us more than other clubs. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people probably are making it out to be.
No, I agree. I think, you look at, there's a good comment from Carl Rayner saying exactly that. Would you want him if he wants to go to Real Madrid? How long would he be here even? Are you not the same fans? Maybe not you, Carl, but certainly a lot of people have been saying this week, let's go and get Haaland. Well, Haaland's definitely coming to this club to leave in 3 years. We don't want Camavinga, who's 18, like Levin says, who's probably, not aware of. I think Camavinga comes to United. He sees the size of Old Trafford. He sees the size of the fan base. He sees the interaction of the fan base and thinks, bloody hell, I never knew United was such a great club. A lot of people probably don't realise that. But then we want Haaland, who's older and is definitely only going to come here for 3 years. He's not going to stay here for 10 years. So, for me, Camavinga is the signing that United need to make way more than they need to make Trippier. And I really hope we do it.
And I think people will even forget the small things like that. Camavinga's 18. He's younger than me. And if you're an 18-year-old, realistically, you wouldn't have grown up seeing as many of, sort of glory days of United. If you're a young kid in France, wherever it is he's from or grown up, I can very much see why he wouldn't have understood the magnitude of United growing up. And maybe that's why, right? He would have seen, other things and that's more attractive to him. I'll play devil's advocate though, Mark. I'll play devil's advocate because we always talk about, the culture of our club and things that are important to our club. And we look back at the Matt Busbys and we look back at Ferguson and the philosophy which they imprinted into our club. And I think that was a big reason why, Sir Alex was very keen on getting kids from in and around the Manchester area because he knew, right, they are going to come up and they understand the club and they have a hunger and they support United. And that was very important to him. right? And so I can very much see why people would be like, no, I don't want young kids who don't get that, because, you know, that is something that we sort of built the club up on, and it's been successful. It's worked for us. It's the reason why someone like McTominay, who might not be, you know, the most skilled or best technical player or best footballer in the world, you know, really seems to impress people, because, you know, he's very much like passionate about the club. He wants to play for the badge, and I think that's an important thing. But I just don't know if that plays into Camavinga's case.
Yeah, I've got no problem with Camavinga, you know, maybe thinking about PSG. He's a French lad, and it's a big step up. It's like, you know, it would be like a Southampton player being wanted by PSG, but then wants to come to United because he's English and, you know, he plays in England. I get that. I've got no problem with that. I'm more than happy that we can convince Camavinga, if we get him, that he's made the right choice. And I think the interesting thing is that with Camavinga, he is the player that we've been linked to. And I would take Camavinga over Trippier every day of the week and Sunday. And look, I know he's young, but I think I trust his quality. I think he's better than what we've got, apart from probably Pogba. And I think he would be a fantastic signing. And people can say, oh, Ollie won't pick him, he won't be ready. But the ultimate thing is, if we don't buy a midfielder, we don't buy a midfielder. So Camavinga over nothing. Yeah, look, probably would prefer a Neves or a Saul Niguez, because they'd probably go straight into the team. But I think at the moment, for everybody who's screaming Neves in the live chat, you know, it's like waking up in the night screaming for your favourite woman or man. You know, it's not going to happen, is it? You know, you're dreaming. And we're not going to get Neves unless we get linked to him very, very soon, because we can't turn a deal round in 3 weeks. Whereas Camavinga, I think we've definitely done some work on it. Trippier, we've definitely done some work on it. We're not going into it cold. We know United take a few weeks. For me, it really is the title of the show, Levin. It's Trippier or Camavinga or nothing. And I think that's what will come to pass. I don't know about you.
Yeah, and it's a bit weird because there's so many feelings that I think we're going to have about this transfer window, and it's very conflicting, because when we go into a situation where it looks like our two marquee signings won't be ready for the start of the season to start, and we've praised sort of the work that was done, where in terms of it looked like things are different, where, you know, we've got two signings in relatively quickly, and then you think, well, how quick has it actually been? Because these guys aren't going to be ready. You know, even to the small things, very frustrating. And to me, it's the small things, Mark, where like stuff with like the Varane complications, wouldn't they have like figured all of that out, you know, while they were, you know, okay, cool, we want to get Varane. Will he have to, you know, quarantine? We should check with him. Is he double vaccine? Will he have to quarantine? Is there going to be visa issue? Like, do you know what I mean? These are things that I feel like, you know, should have been handled before, to avoid some of the delay we've had where it comes to getting these guys in. It's weird. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. You know, if we get that midfield, if we get Camavinga, I think I'd feel a lot more positive about it by the end of things. But I think they did good work in like the public eye in terms of the perception around the club. It looked good, but it could very easily start to look murky based on how that Leeds games go. Right? If we go into that Leeds game, we don't do well.
Well, you know, I've had a bit of an argument with people about this today, because, you know, admittedly, it looked like we'd done our work early, and Ollie came out and said he's impressed at how efficiently and quick we've done the deal. I put it on Twitter today. I said, at what point do we say that's load of nonsense? At what point do we actually say they're not ready for the first game of the season? So how have we been quick and effective? And then I get people saying, wow, it's not their fault. They didn't know about the visa. They didn't know about the quarantine. They didn't know that Sancho was going to get an extra 10 days off. And I'm like, we're not ostriches here. This is, you know, at the end of the day, if I'm being blunt, we have not been quick and efficient, because they're not ready to. When we signed Sancho at the start of July, and when we confirmed Varane, was it like 2 weeks ago? I was like, they're 100%. I even thought they'd play against Everton tomorrow, but I was like, they'll 100% play against Leeds. Now that's not going to happen. That to me is a failure. And you can say, well, it's not their fault, but ultimately it's a little bit like organising a family barbecue 2 weeks in advance. You get everything ready, you get all the deck chairs out and everything like that, and then it rains and you have to cancel the barbecue. Well, all right, it's not your fault, but maybe you should check the weather forecast the day before, and make plans for it. Of course, it's not. I don't think United have done it deliberately, but I do agree with you, Levin, that they probably could have looked at it a little bit better. Instead of praying it wasn't going to rain, look at the forecast. It can be quite accurate. And I don't think I think for whatever, look, I don't know with Sancho. I think maybe he had a knock after the England game or something. I mean, somebody even said today maybe he's got mental health issues because of the missed penalty and all that. I doubt that. I mean, Rashford's missed a penalty, Saka missed a penalty. I don't think it's that. Hopefully, it's nothing to do with that. I personally think he might just be carrying a bit of a knock. In which case, what can you do? But it is a bit frustrating that, you know, ultimately that Leeds game looks a bit worrying. I did a predicted team today, and it looks the same as last season.
And that's the big thing, right? Because, you know, you sort of look at it where we went into last season's game against Crystal Palace, and it was so clear we weren't ready. It was so clear we weren't ready, we weren't prepared. And I feel like from that point, if you're Ollie, if you're the manager, you're thinking to yourself, well, next season we can't have that. I cannot afford to start next season with the team not ready. The team have to make sure the team is ready for that game, and it doesn't look like we're going to be in that position. Hopefully we're proved wrong. Hopefully we go into that game, everybody looks sharp, even regardless of what the team will be. It looks like the team is going to be a team we've been familiar to seeing last season. Cool. We should still be able to beat Leeds. It's about being able to beat Leeds and being ready for that game. Tomorrow's match against Everton will be very telling. It will be very telling. You know, I hope you guys are watching us an early kickoff, but you know, we just cannot afford to not be ready for that game. We can't afford to not start well. We need to hit the ground running this season.
Yeah, look, and if we beat Leeds and we play crap, but we win 1-0, ultimately we know we're going to get Varane and Sancho in and we will get better. But you don't want to risk 3 points when apparently you're going to be trying to keep up with Man City and everybody else. So we'll see what happens with that. And I think tomorrow will be quite telling if he plays a back six again, or actually he does try and play Pogba in the midfield. I think it'd be massively, massively interesting to see whether he plays McFred in the midfield tomorrow or he puts Pogba in there. I think that'll be absolutely huge. But look, if you've joined us a little bit late, we've just been talking about Camavinga or Trippier. The reason for this is that we've got 3.5 weeks left of this transfer window. The only players we've strongly been linked to are Trippier and Camavinga. I think it's very safe to say that we'll buy only one more player if we buy one more, and it will be Trippier or Camavinga. Me and Levin are both Camavinga. I think a lot of people are. This is from Mohamed Bahafsi, that the agent of Camavinga is pushing the move to United. So we'll see what happens with this. But also, Mohamed Bahafsi did say that Pogba would like to go to PSG. This is this afternoon, he said that. Pogba would like to go to PSG, but he won't force the move out of respect to Manchester United. Now, what's your... I can see you pulling a bit of a face there, Levin. I mean, we've never really heard that Pogba wants to go to PSG. Does that just look like to you that is Pogba's happy to stay for another year, then he'll go to PSG on a massive payday?
Can I just say, Mark, I am so confused. I'm going to stop acting or even trying to figure out what the hell is going on with Pogba and what he wants, because it's like we hear things, we see things, and then we hear and see contrasting things that don't make any sense. It's genuinely... like hearing that, right? Cause I didn't know that, right? So hearing that right there, I'm actually so baffled, because you see Pogba, you see the players talking about Pogba, everything looks positive, everything looks good. You know, he's happy to live in Manchester. You'll get those reports. You'll see Ollie saying, yeah, every conversation I've had with Paul has been positive, which of course he's going to say, but you know, I don't really think he's lying about that. I can very much see how that would be the case. But then you'll get Raiola saying this, and then you'll get these reports saying he wants to go. Like, I don't get it. You know, you can see sometimes when a player's maybe not happy or discontent, and you can sort of get an idea. I can't read this, brother. I really can't, and I wish I could, because I say to people, I like Pogba. You know, I like Pogba, but I don't understand what's going on. And, you know, I get why people call it a circus, because it's like we're going round and round. It doesn't make any sense. I don't want to be thinking about this anymore. Regardless of how we get to that point, yeah, I don't want to have to worry about this, whether that is because he signs a long deal and we're good and everything's positive and happy, or whether that be he leaves, you know, cool. Albeit, whichever one, I will live. I will live and I will continue to support United. But we just need to get there, because at this stage, it's so frustrating.
It is frustrating. I think you're absolutely correct. And I do think that at the end of the day, we are... 1 minute, what have I done here? Oh, no, sorry. I just thought I'd put the wrong link out. I think it is frustrating, but ultimately, my understanding of the Pogba situation is this, and welcome to the Members Club, Desiree. I think that Paul Pogba is happy to stay at Manchester United, and I think he's happy to stay at Manchester United because he knows in a year's time he'll be free, much the same as Messi is and Donnarumma has been. And then you can just basically go where you want and earn what you want as well. Whereas going this summer, it is a bit late in the transfer window. But look, there is breaking news about Messi, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think Pogba's just going to run his contract down. Anybody who's been watching this channel will know for a while that I felt that he'll run his contract down. I think that benefits us that we keep Pogba for a year, but you don't know in what state you keep Pogba. I mean, will he, I think it was Jay talking about it last Sunday. Is he going to dive into 50-50 tackles? Is he going to track back as much as he would have done? I don't know. I don't know the answers of those, but I do think Pogba's going to run his contract down. But the interesting thing is that it's coming from Mohamed Bahafsi that he wants to go to PSG, but he won't push the move. And I think that, like Levin said there, that's because he's settled in Manchester for another year. But in another year's time, he will go. He will not sign a new contract at United. I don't think for 1 minute. And look, we've just had breaking news coming from Mohamed Bahafsi that PSG have agreed a deal with Messi for the next 2 years, which means he's snubbed Manchester United. We've been snubbed by Messi. I mean, they're actually I joke, and I have just tweeted it as a joke. But there was the transfer podcast, Ian McGarry and Duncan Castles, where they said United were in talks with Messi. I mean, bullshit. It's like, Messi's going to PSG. The benefit of this, I suppose, Levin, and I don't know what your thoughts are on Messi, because there was never a chance of him coming to United. But the interesting thing with that is that it will cost PSG so much money that you would suspect they will not be getting Camavinga and they will not be getting Pogba this year, which means we do get to keep Pogba for another year and maybe opens the door to Camavinga.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mark. I thought Messi would have been on the CDM list personally, but, maybe not. I guess
he's better than Fred. He is, I think he would be, yeah.
I'd take Messi at DM. I would. Yeah, it probably means Pogba can't go anywhere because the finances on that will be mad. Do you know what I mean? I saw something earlier today that was like, they seem to be getting closer to the deal, but it's going to be about whether financial fair play allows it and whether these things can be allowed. Because that was the initial problem with Barca, right? It was just like they both had a deal agreed. It was just they literally couldn't, by the laws of the La Liga and all these different things, they couldn't do it. And so
I'm surprised La Liga hasn't just changed that rule, because they've just buried their own league by letting Messi leave it.
That's what I always thought. I always thought they would protect Barcelona because genuinely it's incredibly damaging to Barcelona and the league. It is. And so I really did think they would bend the rules. And I wouldn't have been upset with that because, Barcelona are an institution of football and all this and all that, there's a historic club. You got to protect these things sometimes. But, on to Pogba and PSG, yeah, that probably doesn't happen now. I really would love to see like PSG's wage bill just listed out because it must be silly over there.
Wijnaldum's on about $250 a week, isn't he? Something like that as well.
Ramos, Wijnaldum, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, all these men. What? How are they affording all?
We're lucky they're French. We're just lucky they're French because if they were in the Premier League, you think Man City's bad? Oh my God, they would just be. They'd be Man City on cheat code, and Man City are on cheat code. So
that's what you get with these state-funded clubs. Do you know what I mean? They are literally like it's not even like like how the United we're backed by the Glazers. They fund our club. Like PSG are funded by a flipping country. Do you know what I mean? Like it's hard to compete by that. So man, it's if they don't win the Champions League now, oh my I cannot wait for Twitter. Imagine they bought the Champions League now, Mark. Twitter.
I still think they can. I still think it's 11. I said this today. I think Messi. Look, first of all, Messi's off to PSG. I think we all know that. It's a joke that United got snubbed by him because United wouldn't even be in for him. I am. There is the positive. I would have liked to see him stay at Barcelona. I think it's really sad as a football story that they've lost him and that he goes so abruptly. I mean, I can only imagine how Barcelona fans feel because it's not even. I don't think they were expecting it either, so it'd be horrible for them. And La Liga's in big trouble, as we know. I mean, I can't imagine Barcelona without Messi for a start. To me, it feels like PSG. I don't respect PSG. I just think PSG. I never understood why Neymar went there. I don't respect PSG because I just don't value the league. And people were saying, I said it's a pub league, and people are like, it's not a pub league. And I was like, I couldn't name half the teams I was naming, but I said they're all holding a beer in the pub league because it's a pub league. That's what it is. But I do think that it's good that Messi's not gone to Man City, because I think if he'd gone to Man City, that would have made it. I mean, he's still the best player in the world, isn't he? It would have made it very hard. It'd be hard for us anyway, but it would have made it ridiculously hard. So I'm if he's going to go anywhere, I'm glad he's gone to PSG. In relation to the Champions League, look, if United play PSG next year, we beat them last year with Twansebi at centre back. You know, it's 11 against 11. I still think Man City, Bayern Munich, hopefully United, Chelsea, if they played PSG over two legs, I don't think it would be a. I don't even think they'd be massive favourites. They're a good side.
Well, you know, if we're going to do the actual football analysis, which we can do quite briefly, of course, you know, we're not here to analyse PSG, we're typically here to analyse United. But you look at their front three, of course, it's a brilliant front three, and it's you know, insane having Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi up front. But there is no pressing from the front. There is no defending from the front in that team. And that's been PSG's big problem, even in this past season, right? Where the reason why they're often playing counter-attacking football is because, you know, Neymar and Mbappe ain't trying to press. And that's what Poch wants out of his teams. He wants, you know, you to be proactive from the front. And you don't have that, because Messi, rightfully so, just doesn't defend, because, you know, his energy is better spent elsewhere. But, you know, that's going to be a problem they have. They're not going to, they won't be able to defend from the front. And, you know, if we got Varane, you know, who has time on the ball to ling passes in, fair enough, because no one's going to be pressing him or closing him down. So I don't mind. They're not invincincible, right? They are definitely.
I'd fancy them to beat us. I would fancy them to beat us, but I wouldn't fancy them to beat Man City easily. I don't. I think Man City will give them a good game. So both oil clubs, though, aren't they? So
yeah, oil v oil final, probably. Yeah.
It is what it is. Anyway, look, that Messi to PSG might help us get Camavinga. It might, you know what though? I mean, I suppose. Look, just focusing on Pogba for a moment. If Mohamed Bahafsi has broken tonight before anybody that Messi's going to PSG. So Mohamed Bahafsi, the French journalist, has broken tonight that PSG have got Messi on a 2-year deal before anybody. Right?
Okay.
We take that as read. Well, this afternoon, he said that the agent of Camavinga is pushing him towards United. And he's also said that Pogba wants to go to PSG, but will be respectful. There's 3 big stories there. You can't pick and choose what you want to believe. Like, he's first on Messi. He's saying that the agent of Camavinga is pushing him to United and that Pogba wants to go to PSG. The interesting thing will be, I spoke about it this morning, I think a lot of people have started to put their slippers on with Pogba and go, oh, he's here for the season. James Ducker of The Telegraph said yesterday, Pogba's agreed to play with United until the end of the transfer window, and then he'll make a decision. That's 3.5 weeks away. So Pogba might go, you know what? I'm quite fancy that Ramos, because Ramos won't be playing there forever. Messi won't be playing there forever. They're only there for 2 years. Pogba might be like, I ain't waiting a year. I fancy a bit of that Messi Ramos madness now. Let's do it.
Start. Please don't start, Mark. Please.
Well, he might do.
You know what? I do want to see the reports now, because if it is, you know, if it is just going to start raining down that Messi is signed for PSG and whatnot, you know, there's going to be reports that come out as a result of this, which will be reports such as, with this deal happening, you know, PSG's interest in Pogba have now, you know, relaxed until next season when he's a free agent and they don't have to pay a fee. Like, we will start hearing these kind of reports soon, and so, you know, hopefully we can get those as soon as possible before the window, you know, gets closer to ending. But yeah, I definitely think this is going to cause certain shifts, right? Because even now, when you look at, you know, Ronaldo's situation at Juventus, of course, it's been said he's going to stay there, but the club that people said he was going to go to was PSG. How does that happen now with all the players? There's so many. This is going to cause like a domino effect in football, and I think we'll start to get the results of it over the couple of days. But what this means for Pogba, I'm just going to assume it means they probably don't have the finances to get a deal done, because Messi is just, you know, it's going to cost you a lot, and they already have a massive wage bill. But then at the same time, they have unlimited money. So who knows? Who knows?
Just a quote from Pochettino here as well, which you could almost take as being about Pogba. I won't give any names. I don't like to speak about players who belong to other clubs. The club is working away quietly, achieving some good things. And I think PSG do want Pogba. Now that becomes a bit, that does be, you know, maybe we revisit the conversation about PSG's Champions League chances if they've got Ramos at the back with Marquinhos, they've got Donnarumma in goal, they've got Hakimi at right back, they've got Pogba, Wijnaldum, Verratti in the midfield, and they've got Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe as the front three. I ain't seeing many issues in that team if they do that. I could see why they'd want Pogba in that team. It would be, the workaholics of Verratti and Wijnaldum with Pogba and having a bit of freedom. And then, I mean, that would be it would almost be like a Harlem Globetrotters of football, wouldn't it? That would be pretty impressive if they did do that.
Well, look, Poch has still got the Spurs curse, so we ain't got to worry about nothing, Mark. We ain't got to worry about
He's just an Argentinian Ollie.
Ugh, don't say that. Respect Ollie.
No, I won't, because I know the Ollie out crowd. The Ollie out crowd, absolutely. He's on their flags, Pochettino. So
yeah, they love him. They love Poch. I'm not. I don't hate Poch. I don't think he's a bad coach. There's still much to be seen from him, I think. And he's got the perfect platform to prove it now, right? He's got a perfect platform to prove it because the talent they have on their squad is more than any other team in Europe. Like, if you compile it, the only team that is in that range is obviously Man City now. So, it'll be a good season for them. It'll be a good season for them. It'll be one where we'll probably see some good football played as well.
I tell you what, the one thing I would be, what is the point in PSG playing in the French league?
There isn't. Do you know, I discovered about Neymar, actually, right? That I didn't realize. Since Neymar's actually left Barcelona to go to PSG, he's not played more than 20 games in the league season for PSG. In any season he's not played more than 20 games.
I wouldn't either. I'd be like, I ain't playing against Angers who? You
don't need to, because he literally don't need to. And Messi will be the same. Messi will play flipping 17 games for PSG next season, and they'll just be fully focused on the Champions League.
I mean, look, they didn't win it last year, of course, but it'd be interesting. Look, there might be a sting in the tail of this transfer window where we get Camavinga, but we lose Pogba, in which case, are you worse or better off? You're welcome to McFred for the whole season, basically. If we lose Pogba, that's what's going to happen. It might happen anyway. We'll have to wait and see. But interesting hat-trick there from Mohamed Bahafsi, confirming Messi to PSG, saying that Camavinga is being pushed to United by his agent and that PSG do want Pogba, but he'll be respectful. I think Pogba needs to wait a year. Sancho's not at training yet. No, Abdir, he's just asked about that. He's not there yet. Next week, we think, as well. One thing I did want to ask, we are going to get into a bit of a Q&A now, so start chucking your questions in. But the one question I wanted to ask you, Levin, was that Manchester United, and look, we should see a busy end to the month. Of course we should. But look, I have interviewed a lot of people recently for, I've done like Paddy Power and a few bits. So Teddy Sheringham, Paul Ince, and I've read it with people like Andy Cole and stuff like that, and a couple of others. When we speak to these ex-players, whether they're midfielders, strikers themselves or what, a lot of them do say, and I've had it said to me at least 2 or 3 times by ex-players, when I say what do we need, they all say striker. Like even ahead of a centre-back or a right winger or a midfielder, they all said striker. And when a couple of them said it, I thought, well, that's a bit of a coincidence. And then it was 3, and then I'd hear, a couple of other people mention it in the media. What's your thoughts on that? Why do you think everyone thinks we need a striker? And do you think we're actually missing a trick there?
There's a couple things here that I personally think. A lot of the time, I think they probably don't know as much about the current squad of United as they think. I think I feel like it's always a very easy answer, Mark, to just go like, what do you need? You need a striker. Almost every team could use a striker. Even the teams with decent strikers, of course you could use a striker. Like, you want to get more goals in. That's the game. Like, I think it's very easy to sit there and say, yeah, we need a striker. It's weird though, because like, of course, we will need a striker. Like after this season, we will need a striker when Cavani's gone and whatnot. And, you got to assess whether Martial and Greenwood are good enough to hold it down there, together for a whole season. But I think that's where that mentality comes from. I think it's very much like, Paul Robinson says there, right? Because goals wins games, and that's the sort of mentality. It's like, yeah, you need that talisman. You want that guy who's banging in loads of goals for you. But I don't, no disrespect to any former legends of the club or anything, but I don't sit there and, rate their analysis incredibly highly a lot of the time. Like, I'll never forget watching, I believe it was the Champions League, and Paul Scholes is like, yo, yeah, Man United should be going out and get Fofana. Let's just sign him. You don't even know what you're talking about.
I remember that.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. So sometimes, yeah, you can just see where these guys aren't as in tune as a lot of the time you at home will be, because you're obviously watching almost everything week in, week out. You're listening to analysis from all these different places where they just will watch a couple games and then think what they need, and that's it.
It is interesting because, like, we hold these people up on pedestals because they've been great to the club, and then sometimes you listen to them and you go, "Oh, oh, oh no!" And you try and think why, and you're like, "Yeah, you probably hit the nail on the head. They probably just don't watch football as much as we do. I think they watch United games, but they probably don't spend much time after the game, before the game, thinking it through to the depth that we do, because it's like they do miss things that are just, I'm sure Scholesy, when he said that, Fofana's a really good player, but he probably had no idea that Leicester just bought him, and he was like, "Oh, he looks like a good player, buy him." And it's like, there's levels to that. You can't just go and do that.
And it's also like with football as well, right? With any sort of analysis, you don't, when you're analyzing a game, you don't look at it the same way you would if you're just watching a game to just enjoy a regular game. Football, all sports are basically like events based, right? And in other sports, like in basketball, the main event, which is scoring, happens more often, right? Whereas in football, it doesn't happen as often, and you can have a whole game where it doesn't happen. The main event where it's like a goal cannot happen. And so it's very easy in football to watch and like drift in and out and not be paying attention. And especially when you're watching on TV, you can't actually get an overview of everything that's happening when you're watching on TV. You just see what the cameras show you. So, it's very easy to watch a football match and not actually come away with it with great analysis and understanding of what actually happened in that match. And so that's why I don't like fault these people. When I see people even on Twitter with bad takes and bad analysis after watching a game, I don't sit there like, "You're an idiot." I just sit there and think, yeah, you probably don't have a process of actually understanding what's happened in the match and stuff. So that's just how it's always going to be.
Pratik, just on that, I think Chouamini's a very good player, but we're not looking at him. I don't know why we're not looking at him. What do you think of the plan is for Donny? We'll come back to that, Lee Taylor, because the striker question actually was somebody else's question that I've not pulled it out of thin air. I mean, just on that striker question, what I would add to that as well is that it's very much for me with the striker thing is that I was always baffled by it, because look, Cavani can't play every game, but you've still got Greenwood and Martial. But even if you buy Haaland, I've said this, or Harry Kane, where for me it falls down is not the fact that we don't need a striker. I certainly don't think it's a priority, but I don't mind people saying we need a striker. My biggest issue is I've spent 18 months talking about the lack of service our strikers get. We don't create chances for our striker. So why would you buy something? We need to create chances first. When Martial's missing 4 or 5 chances a game, you need a striker. When Martial or Cavani aren't really getting many chances, you need to sort out something else there, really. And
and it's a lot of the time it's about the system as well, right? Because you look at it last season, Bruno created the most chances in open play of any player in the Premier League. Apparently, he's not that good though, right? But you've got players in the squad who are creating chances, but the system ain't fit right. Do you know what I mean? And that's the reason why as well. I always said I was much more scared of Man City getting Kane than Man City getting Grealish, because they already create so many chances. If they have a Kane type striker to just finish off those chances, that scares me more than adding Grealish, who's also more of a creative player who's going to be creating chances for other people in the team. So yeah, I get why people say, yeah, you need a striker, but like you said, you need to create chances for your striker. You need to create a system and have the players who will put the ball in the feet of the striker.
Keep the questions coming in. I just want to say as well, just talking about that pundit thing, it just dropped into my head. I'll tell you what really pisses me off is and it does still exist in football, because a lot of things still exist. Racism exists, homophobia exists, sexism exists. But on a much less serious level, there is this perception that foreign fans are, idiots amongst some fans. And, I've never said that. This is not the United Stand. I don't mean the United Stand's been going 6 years now. We've always embraced the worldwide community. I love it. And I know we get a lot of people from all over the world watching this channel. But I still think that there is this bit of a perception from certain people in the UK that if you're not from the UK, your football knowledge is crap. And I was on a podcast with 3 people from India a couple of weeks ago, the 442 podcast. And they were just so slating Ollie and the tactics of this, that, and the other. And I've had this with Americans, Australians. The knowledge in football, especially in this fan base, is ridiculous. The world is, the world of football is not about ex-players and mainstream media in the UK. I think football fans are more in depth than mainstream media and a lot of ex-players, because they consume it to ridiculous lengths. And I think you know, maybe 20 years ago, if you're a foreign fan, it's difficult because, you know, games aren't easy to get hold of and everything like that. I don't know. But I certainly think in the last decade, this is the worldwide sport. This is a worldwide sport now. And there is no such thing as a fan being better because they're in the UK than a Mexican fan or an Indian fan or an Indonesian fan or a Canadian fan. The world is so small now. And the knowledge is out there is absolutely unbelievable. And puts people to shame. You know, I'm only a presenter on this show, and as a U11, the quality of analysis in the chat, I see it every single day, and I don't know where most of these people come from because it's just a name. But for me, I don't think, oh, they must be from the UK, because I see it all the time. The level of knowledge is unbelievable. I still think there is a perception that it isn't like that. I still think that they think, oh, they're from abroad, they're there with the buying the kits and singing Ollie in, and you know, they just missed the positive. And I think that does disservice to fans as well, especially outside of this country. There's this assumption that you're just buying the shirts with a big smile on your face, cheering everything, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah,
it's a very small-minded, you know, mentality, and it's very damaging. And obviously, you know, this is a show about football. We're not here to talk about philosophy in the world, but it's something you see in many aspects of life as well, which is very ignorant, and it's frustrating. But like you said, it's far from the case, because the beauty of football now is that, you know, the information's out there. You can actually go and educate yourself and start to develop understandings of how to analyze things, right? You know, like, I'm not saying everyone can go out there and become an actual analyst, but, you know, you can understand football at a deeper level, you know, better than you can with many other sports. It's because of how it's, you know, sort of globalized. The information's out there.
Technology.
You know what I mean? It's so accessible, and it's a shame that people still think that way. But nah, man, I don't take stock in that, because it's not true. Some of the people who have educated me on football the best are people who don't come from England. So I'm, you know, for
the funny thing is, if you're not in the UK, you get to watch more games than us legally anyway. You know, there's a lot of games coming up that we can't watch legally, that you get access to all of them. So technically, you get to watch more. Let's go back to that question on Donny. What you know, I keep hearing, oh, Donny's been watching Rocky IV. He's been bulking up. Ollie's been there on his back. Come on, Donny. You know, he's bulking up to play him in the CDM. What's the season ahead for Donny? And be ruthless. You know, don't be fantasy. What is the season ahead for Donny, in your opinion? What, you know, not what you want. What do you think is going to happen for Donny this season? And where do you think we'll use him?
Okay, I just want to say this, and I hate to break people's hearts who are listening out there. I very much understand it must be exciting seeing Donny van der Beek bulk up, because I've seen many people go, yeah, Donny's getting hench now, he's going to be playing, you know, as a holding midfielder for us. That's not what that means. That's not what that means. Donny bulking up doesn't automatically mean he's going to be playing as a holding midfielder. It doesn't mean that. Donny needed to bulk up anyway, because like I've said on the show before, you know, playing in the midfield in the Premier League specifically is a completely different ball game. You know, there's a wonderful article written by Yaya Toure that was on The Athletic, and he talked about, and Yaya Toure is a big physical guy, right? You know, we remember Yaya Toure, he was a big guy. Do you know what I mean? And he talked about how when he came over to the Premier League, it was, he couldn't stay on the ball for, you know, more than 2 seconds without getting bashed, and he couldn't handle it. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, you know, players will bulk up, players who play in the midfield will get stronger anyway, because you need to be stronger playing in the midfield in the Premier League, regardless of where in the midfield that is. You need to be stronger. We'll see it with, you know, even players like Sancho, and that Sancho will have to get stronger. He might not bulk up the way Donny's bulked up, but he will have to get stronger. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, he's going to be trying to skill up Ben Mee. Ben Mee's not having it. You seen that picture of Ben Mee, like, holding someone like, just, it's like a wrestling match or something in the middle of a match. You're not having it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I love Donny, and I'm happy he's bulking up, because it will mean, you know, he'll probably improve. You know, he'll probably be better on the ball. He'll be able to hold off defenders a bit better and whatnot. But it doesn't mean he's going to be playing as a holding midfielder. What I will say about Donny, I'm really looking forward to him getting more game time, because he's shown he can be a good player. He's shown that he can play in our squad. And, you know, he's played at the highest level of football in the Champions League and everything. He's got the experience there. I do believe Donny's going to be a key player for us moving forward. And I hope Ollie understands that, and Ollie, you know, sees it the same way I do, because, you know, Donny can be very, very useful to us this season. Yeah,
I think Donny's coming from a weak position in my mind. I think he's you know, it was pretty much established last year that he was 5th or 6th choice. In the midfield, he was behind Bruno, Pogba, McFred, Matic. Established. Like so he's coming from a position where I still think he's going to be 5th or 6th choice, and I don't expect him to get played much. And remember, Lingard's here now. I think he'll pick Lingard ahead of Donny in an attacking midfield position. So I do think it's going to be difficult for him. But I hope it's not. I hope we do. I hope we really do get to see him play more games. Will Ollie win the Premier League if we buy a midfielder? I think we've got a challenge if we do. I don't think we can say we will. Donny will want to play in the World Cup next year. I think he'll have assurances from Ollie for a minimum amount of games. I don't agree with that, John Sam. I don't think any player gets insurances on minimum amounts of games, especially with Ollie, who doesn't really rotate much. And Joan says, will Messi's move to PSG deflect interest of Pogba and bring financial play into play? I don't know about that. Hopefully it'll mean that Pogba will stay for the season, because I think we're better with Pogba. I'll tell you what I'm here for, though. I don't know whether anybody plays FIFA Ultimate Team. I am waiting for this on FIFA 22. I am waiting for this banter. You know, you've just got FIFA 22. You're playing Ultimate Team. You open your pack. The fireworks start. It's PSG. It's Argentina. I'm getting Messi. I'm getting Messi. I'm getting Messi. It's Di Maria. It's Di Maria.
It's going to be awful. The bait is going to be mad.
Right winger as well. Right
wing Argentina, you are finished. Like, we're going to see it. We're going to see it. I'm waiting for it to happen to you. That's what I'm waiting for. You know what I mean?
Luckily, I don't really play it, but it will be funny. There'll be some clips going round. You know, these people who absolutely love it. Yeah. Oh, fireworks! PSG! Argentina! Oh, man! Di Maria! Oh, yeah.
Awful.
I mean, what? Awful. I mean, look, forget Ultimate Team. Just play as PSG on career mode. Although it'd be crap. It'd be crap because you'd be playing a load of French teams. I just can't. I could never do that. You know, people say to me, "Why don't you ever do a career mode with a foreign team?" And I'm like, because there's no league like the Premier League. Like the Premier League is just so competitive. I mean, you know, you could never do the French league. It'd be boring. La Liga's boring. The Bundesliga is boring. Italian league's quite good, but the standard's not there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird for me because
La Liga might be better now. La Liga might get good now, actually.
Well, I'm not watching. I won't be watching to find out.
No, it'd just be a shit standard. Yeah, I mean, God. Oh, yeah.
I'll be like, you know, shout out all the man them that watch, you know, that use Total Sport Tech and all them things there. You got to keep quiet on them things. But, you know, them ones where you finish watching the match you're watching and then you just see like a random match. I'll just be like, that's why like I end up watching like a lot of random leagues. Like last season, I ended up just watching a bunch of random League One games and random Serie A Bundesliga games because like I just see a match on. I'm just like, oh, I like that player. Let me watch and see what that team's doing. And yeah, a lot of those leagues they're not the most entertaining to watch. It's not the same because like with the Prem, I like fully understand almost everything around all the teams. You know what I mean? I have a great deep understanding of, you know, all of the players, whereas I don't with the other leagues. And obviously, you know, I try and educate myself and stuff, but it'll just never be the same. It'll never be the same.
Apparently, League One is the French league is sponsored by Uber Eats. It should be sponsored by Wetherspoons because it's a pub league.
God,
you know what the Spanish league should be sponsored by?
Go on.
Poundland. Sing when you're winning. Sing when you're winning. No, in all seriousness, though, I am not smug. I think Real Madrid and Barcelona fans can be quite smug. I'm gutted for Barcelona. And I've had a lot of stick off Barcelona fans last year because I was saying La Liga is not as good as the Premier League. Well, I was right. And if I wasn't right, I'm bloody right now. Your league, the Championship's better than your league. Bloody hell. You've ruined it. But no, I do feel sorry for Barcelona. I do. I think, you know, there is a respect amongst big clubs. Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Juventus, you know, big clubs, Liverpool. And I do think it's horrible what's happened to Barcelona. I can only imagine what it must be like to have, not only have, but have nurtured and brought through the world's best player. You know, he's on levels with Maradona. And for him to leave like that at 30, what? Is he 32, 33 now? I don't know.
33. I think he's 33.
Suddenly go like that to a club that's got very, you know, basically a rich club that's got no history. It's got to be a kick in the teeth for Barcelona. I mean, we lost Ronaldo, like George Carl says, but this is very different. Yeah. It's a horrible situation.
Look, on a serious note, though, when it comes to like some of these other leagues, right? Of course, you know, nothing's going to hit the same as the Premier League for me. And there was someone in chat like, English, obviously. Yeah, shut up, bruv. Just shut
We've
up.
just been called, Levin, I've just spotted this, and I'll give it a bit of credit.
What?
It does work as well. We are the Poundland Sidemen, Harry and KSI.
Oh, my God. You know what? Yeah, it's not. It wouldn't be the first time I heard that. It wouldn't be the first time I heard that.
It's not. But a Poundland version is meant to be a shit version. Thanks.
I don't mind going Poundland. Poundland, you can get some solid stuff from Poundland. Don't disrespect Poundland. What was I gonna say? Now, look, some of these leagues, as much as just because Messi leaves like Liga, of course, like the main attraction of the Liga is gone, and so that turns people off to it. That doesn't mean there won't be good football played there. Like there's still, decent teams with good coaches. There will be good football played. It's just like for somebody who has no vested interest in the league, it may be harder for you to actually end up watching that match. Whereas maybe if that match was to randomly pop up, you watch it because you're entertained. But yeah, we're not like, do you know what I mean? It's not.
Best case scenario, maybe they're going to go through a period of, I think La Liga's been the dominant league really for probably 20 years. All right, a couple of years of English, but I think they're not going to be that now. They're poor. I mean, look, we hated the Super League. You can see why Barcelona and Real Madrid wanted it, because, all right, it might be anti-football. It might turn football into a brand and a franchise. And we're in that position where, we can say that. But if you're a Barcelona fan or a Real Madrid and you look at what's happening to Barcelona, you can see why they wanted it. And that's just a sad, but I would say to that, you desperately wanted something that was so bad for football because your club's in a mess. Like, how have you got into that mess? That's what Barcelona need to look at. I'd be disgusted about how they got into that mess in the first place.
There are many, many mistakes down the line. And I think that's the key thing, right? Because the problem is, right, is that with UEFA and that, they very much got away with one because, the Super League was a very bad thing. And it was good how, as a football community, we all banded together against it. But in many ways that put us on the side of UEFA, right? Because, UEFA loved that because UEFA are against the Super League and they wanted, they don't want that for their own, personal interest, right? But UEFA aren't the good guys. That's the key thing to remember. That doesn't mean UEFA are the good guys, right? There's a reason why these clubs are in these positions and they've, one, it's mismanagement, but two, there's other things that they feel need to be done, in the current institutions of football that aren't done. And so, it's good that it sparks conversation. It sparks conversation and hopefully it sparks change that can benefit, the clubs, the fans and everybody involved rather than it just being very much, because the Super League solution is very much, it benefits us, right? Less so than how it can affect the fans and, local clubs and all these other things. So hopefully there's some positive change moving forward.
I've got no idea whether that's true. I almost feel like I'm teasing you all. I mean, it could just be totally made up, but if there's anything in truth that Leeds are in contact with Dan James and want 25 million, Leicester and Brighton interested as well, that's a deal I'd do. Levin, Dan James, is that the sort of player that you'd move out for 25 million? Is that the sort of deadwood that, not deadwood, but, surplus to requirements player?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I'm very much about, giving certain younger players a chance because, I don't know. Obviously, I didn't live through these things, but they mean a lot to me. So I go back and I will very much educate myself. And I'll spend a lot of time trying to figure out certain things like, how these things happen. And it's like, you look at, people like, Ince and Robson being, let go from the team when we were, at our peak and, Fergie saying, yeah, let's get these young players and I believe in them. And that's why as much as people go, why are you always hating on Lingard? I don't hate Lingard, but I just much rather see Ahmad get a chance. You know what I mean? I'd rather see Pellistri get in there because I think these guys have the potential to be good enough and, someone like Lingard's in their way. And I don't think Lingard has a crazy future left with United. So these are the things I just think about. And Dan James is also someone where I don't see a future for him where he could maybe even push his way into the starting 11, right? And I don't think, regardless of what you think about Dan James, even with Lingard, I'd say the same thing. Like, do you genuinely see an outcome where they actually push their way into the starting 11 over Rashford, Sancho, all these guys? No. Do you know what I mean? And potentially with some of the other younger guys like Elanga and Pellistri, they could, right? I'm not saying they are now, but they could. There's a higher chance. And so those guys, in my opinion, should be given an opportunity to play more. So, but
I think Ahmad as well. I know he's been forgotten a little bit, but I think Ahmad is a ridiculous talent, absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, he's getting no mention at all. We're talking about James and Lingard and Alanga. And I think Ahmad is, just because he's been part of the Olympics, has just been totally forgotten. I think he's, you know, I remember Romano talking to me about a year ago about Ahmad, and it's like, that was before United were even in for him. Like, he's just an amazing player. And what are we going to do with him this season? I don't see a loan deal for him because I don't think he'll even be back. So, you know, you've got to start looking to use some of these players, definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think about the season ahead, Levin, at the moment? I know there's a week and we've got a big game tomorrow where we'll have a look at things. And what's your feeling about the season ahead? Because that's something I was talking about today, and people were saying, what do you expect from the season? What do you expect from this season at the moment?
Well, my expectations, you know, I'm very much optimistic in our squad, and because I have a great belief in our squad. I like a lot of our players, and I believe they are great talents. And you know, I expect us to go out there and improve on last season, which to me means we have to have an extended title charge. Do you know what I mean? We got to be going for the title. I'm not happy with top four. I'm not happy with, you know, we just get second. Like, I want us to be in that race for the whole season, and of course I'd want us to win the race. That's not going to be easy to do. I'm realistic in that sense. I understand it won't be easy, but I expect us to be in there. And so genuinely I look at our team and I do think that this team is good enough to be in a title race with the other top four teams. You know, there's still a couple holes that need to be fixed if we're going to be good enough to win that race. Of course, the midfield issues and whatnot, but I'm really looking forward to this season, more so than I have been in a long time. I really am looking forward to this season because I just think you look at some of the quality we have, Mark. It's, you know, we have a good team. We can play some good football, and we saw in, you know, various moments last season where we played really good football, and that's a foundation to build off of. That's definitely a foundation you got to build off. And I'll be very disappointed if I don't see improvement this season.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, look, I thought the Everton game in the Carabao Cup before Christmas, the PSG game away, there wasn't many. I'll probably count 5, but we did play well 5 times last season. And obviously you want to do that a little bit more. But I agree with you. I think that, look, I've been negative the last couple of days in a certain extent, but I think that's because I'm anxious that we're only one midfield away from having a real go. But I've got to say, compared to the last 2 years, I know the last 2 years, I really had concerns about top 4. I don't have concerns about top 4. Doesn't mean we'll get top 4, but I think you can't not get top 4 with that team. He's lost his job if he doesn't get top 4. So for me, it is about, you know, I'm more optimistic and excited this season than I have been for the last 2, because I think we're more realistically closer to the expectations we should have as United fans, which is each season we should expect a title challenge. I do expect one this year, but we'll see.
And I think it's very... I think you got to realize you can separate the two, because of course, if I did a Premier League prediction right now, right, let's say, you know, you were going to do a video on That's Football, you know, your Premier League predictions. Like, if you don't have Manchester United in first, yeah, that's very different from you sitting here now and saying you expect us a title challenge. It's not the same. Right?
I won't have it. Would you have us? I mean, I will do that video next week, but I won't have United in first.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, right? I wouldn't either, but that's not because I don't believe we're good enough to challenge for a title. That's just because I'm looking at all the other teams and I'm thinking, in theory, what makes the most sense of who do you expect to do the best based off of the squad they've had and what you saw from last season, all these things. That doesn't mean we're not good enough. I think the top 4, Mark, right, from last season, the actual teams that got top 4 are on a different level to every other team.
Yeah.
They're on a different to every other team in the league. And it could be any of us in any order. I genuinely believe that.
I do think as well what Paul said, and I said this last year as well. Last year I said that the season we'd come third. I think we got 66 points. So I was saying I want 75 points. It's not really about where we finish. It's about points, because if we get 75 points, we're in the top 4. We got 73 or 74, so we didn't quite do it. This year, for me, I want a minimum of 80 points.
I like that.
And that's what. So I'm not gonna say where we're gonna finish, but I do want to see us get 80 points. I think you've got to progress, because you could get 70 points and finish 4th. You could get 80 points and finish 4th. But I think we've got to be looking at 80 points. And if we can go above that, then you're in a title challenge as well.
Yeah, and I think you can look at last season, and there are definitely games where you think to yourself, we should have got points from those games. Of course, there were games where maybe we stole some points, you know, the Brighton game and whatnot. But there are definitely games where you look and you think, nah, you know, we should be winning that. Those should be points we should have had. So there's like, at the end of the day, there is a platform and a foundation there for us to build on and improve on. And this team should be one of the best teams in the league next season.
I think the only time we've hit over 80 points since Sir Alex Ferguson retired was Mourinho, and I think he got 81 points. So I think Ollie's got to beat that. I think Ollie's got a better squad than Mourinho had. I think he's got to go and beat that. But we'll see. Look, I'm very excited about the game tomorrow. I mean, we will get to see, you know, we're not going to see youth players and fringe players. We're going to have to see players that are going to be involved against Leeds. Hopefully we might see some, you know, different style of play. If we see a back six and we see slow progressive football and not creating many chances, then it's like, well, what we've been working on over the summer. But look, that doesn't mean we're going to play a different way against Leeds either. So I'm very excited about it. We'll see what happens. But look, I know you want to watch Love Island, Levin.
No, I actually am not watching Love Island, unfortunately. I know you'll be off to watch it, but there's a Fortnite event tonight, so I got some Fortnite responsibilities.
Where can people see you doing that then? Is that on Twitch?
Well, I'm not actually in. It's not like a tournament that I'm commentating or anything, but it's like they're doing some in-game event for Fortnite, so I'm gonna be watching that. But enjoy Love Island. I'm sure you'll be watching, Mark, right?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've got no idea what you're talking about, to be honest with you. But what I will be watching tomorrow is the match. And that is a watch along tomorrow, 12:45 kickoff. So we'll be live on the United stand for that. Really excited because I'm glad pre-season's over. It's been shit. But I think the game tomorrow against Everton is probably about as good a pre-season game as you can get. So I'm looking forward to that. I know Adam's going to be at the game. Oh, that just reminds me, actually, if you're going to be at the game tomorrow, I keep forgetting this. That's footballmedia@gmail.com. If you're at the game tomorrow, drop us an email. Check the link in the video description because I've put the email address in there. If you're going to be at games this season and you want to provide us with fan vlogs, I've dropped the link in the video description of Adam's fan vlog from the game at Old Trafford a couple of weeks ago. So if you're going to do them like that, because we've got a couple of people sent them in and they're walking along and all you can see is the night sky and everything. Like they're talking, but you can't see it. So basically you want to hold it up, horizontal, Old Trafford in the background and give us 5 minutes sort of your match reaction and thoughts on the season ahead. I've dropped the link in the video description to see how Adam did it. And also the email address is there as well. So if you are going to be and you want to get involved in that, it's a way to get involved on the United stand. If you're fortunate enough to be going to games this season and you're going to be there tomorrow, 55,000 is going to be back there. So very excited to see that. Anyway, Levin, thanks for coming on, pal.
Yo, thank you for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure. I love talking about football. And you know, there's going to be more football to talk about, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the show tonight. Thanks everyone who's tuned in. Lots and lots of discussion. And the great thing now is that we are going to see lots and lots and lots and lots of football debate now. Transfer news will continue for 3 weeks, but we're now going to be talking about back fours, holding midfielders, chances created, what's going on. I can't wait. I can't wait for that sort of conversation to kick in because that sort of conversation goes on for a long time and creates a lot of debate. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks everyone for watching.